Senator Lambie.
Mr Deputy President, I rise to speak on the Veterans Affairs Legislation Amendment, Digital Readiness and Other Measures Bill 2016. I have to say, finally, when I first got into Parliament in 2014, I went and seen Senator Ronaldson. Finally, nearly 3 years later, you've actually got your act together. Now, if it's taken you 3 years to work this out and you still can't connect the rules or show the rules at the same time, then maybe you need to know about poll numbers today. But I'm not talking about your poll numbers in here, in your own parties. I'm talking about 21 veterans have taken their lives this year. I want to thank Ray Martin for those statistics this morning. That's where we're at. This bill would allow the Department of Veterans Affairs to undertake business reforms and implement new information and communications technology, otherwise known as ICT, to reduce times on claims processing and improve services to veterans. The bill gives DVA Secretary the authority to use computer programs to make decisions in any claims over 3 separate acts, which include the Veterans Entitlement Act 1986, or the VEA, the Military Rehabilitation and Compensation Act 2004, or formerly known as the MERCA, and the Safety Rehabilitation and Compensation Defence-Related Claims Act 1988, the DERCA. The bill also significantly alters veterans' privacy in 3 pieces of veterans' legislation, which are the VEA, the MERCA and the SRCA, which may become known as the DERCA if it is enacted by this parliament. Firstly, the bill would permit the Department of Defence and DVA to share personal and medical records, sending alarm bells already, I can assure you. Secondly, it permits the DVA Secretary to disclose information about a particular case or class of cases if the Secretary believes it is necessary and in the public interest to do so. And if that's not an alarm bell in itself with Simon Lewis, shoot me down today. And the bill's overall intent is good, particularly in making necessary reforms and introducing ICT, which will likely benefit veterans if their claims are processed more quickly and efficiently. They are the key words, and improve overall veteran services by DVA. However, Schedule 2 of the bill, which deals with the privacy of veterans, has not undergone a robust and thorough independent privacy impact statement or assessment, meaning Schedule 2 fails to comply with the PIA guidelines provided by the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner. In fact, just a few days after this bill was passed by the House, the South Lake Macquarie sub-branch of the Return Services League of Australia New South Wales started a change.org petition to urge this Senate to stop the bill based upon serious privacy concerns by the veterans community. In less than 2 weeks, the petition received over 10,000 electronic signatures. The Change.org petition received thousands of comments supporting the petition, including the RSL New South Wales Chief Executive Officer Glenn Colometz, who noted that veterans' entitlements and rights have been slowly eroded via the passage over the last 30+ years of a complex and inequitable legislative regime. It is time for the RSL to get its mongrel back and fight for legislation of this nature, lest it devolves into irrelevance. The DVA and the Minister of Veterans Affairs have stated in media releases as well as social media statements that DVA had consulted the veterans community on this bill, and it was developed in consultation with the veteran community, including the RSL, which is absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Basically, Veterans Affairs stood in front of them, told them this is what was going to happen. It's all hunky-dunky, it's all good to go. They know what I do with these ESOs. They don't have barristers and lawyers to overlook them because you don't pay them enough. You don't pay for that service for them. Just last week, it was revealed in a hearing in different veterans legislation, the DERCA bill in the Senate Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Legislation Committee. That committee is concerned with DVA's current consultation and engagement practices, and in a report issued just today recommended a review of DVA's consultation and engagement practices. The Change.org petition, containing more than 10,000 signatures, shows the Senate committee's concern about DVA's inadequate consultation practices are more than valid. That petition to stop the bill based on veterans' privacy concerns gained these signatures in less than 2 weeks, suggests that the Minister for Veterans Affairs' statements about consultation with the RSL is either a lie or the consultation did not go far enough. And I can tell you, you might as well have gone up to about 50,000 signatures if I'd have plugged it and gone at it on my social media. The Senate Scrutiny of Bills Committee raised questions about why rules or guidance about the exercise of the Secretary's disclosure power cannot be included in the primary legislation, and why there is not a duty on the Minister to make rules regulating the exercise of the Secretary's power, noting that this bill will provide the Secretary with significant power. Like, I would have thought that the Secretary, Simon Lewis, had more than enough already that he can't control. In response to the Scrutiny of Bills Committee on the 12th of December 2016, the Minister of Veterans Affairs indicated that with respect to a veteran's privacy, the proposed public interest provision was modelled from the Social Security Administration Act 1999, which had been in operation for 17 years and never been a cause for concern. And what do you know? Here it comes, 2 months later. This statement by the Minister of Veterans Affairs would come back to haunt him when Centrelink, in February 2017, linked personal information to a journalist after a Centrelink client had publicly claimed she was wrongly targeted by Centrelink over an unfair debt. Basing veterans' privacy from Social Security law, given the Centrelink release of personal information, should give serious pause to my fellow colleagues here in the Senate. Veterans deserve no less than robust protections on their privacy of their personal and medical files. Schedule 2 of this bill fails. It fails in providing strong privacy protections, and as such I will be introducing an amendment that will scrap Schedule 2 from the Veterans Digital Readiness Bill, which I do believe will have support from the crossbenchers. However, Labor's still going to play the game. So while you're making your rules up, and I believe I think there was 9 lots they've already done. They're now on their 10th through 11th. And while you're mucking around with that, it'll be interesting to see how many veteran suicide, more that we have over the next month, while we're waiting for you to clear that little matter up. I mean, this is an embarrassment to the government. Something so simple has been made into mincemeat, and you are now putting more veterans' lives on the line. Once the Minister of Veterans Affairs and DVA undertake an independent PIA or privacy impact assessment on veterans' privacy and then consult with all the stakeholders, to include the veterans community, the Minister is free to come back to Parliament and introduce an amendment to Veterans Digital Readiness, which provides adequate privacy protections in dealing with veterans' records. Until this is done, the Senate should not authorise Schedule 2 of this bill, because it would be bad law and could have negative consequences to vulnerable veterans. And I can assure you, after 13 years of being in the Middle East and rotation after rotation after rotation, there is a lot of vulnerable veterans out there. We've only got to see the vulnerability of our Vietnam veterans, where most of them done 1 year in the war zone. These guys have done 9, 10, 11, 12 tours. Simply put, veterans' privacy should not be framed from Social Security law. Veterans make an enormous sacrifice to serve and protect our great nation. As such, the very least we can do as lawmakers is to afford them a robust and independent privacy impact assessment and consultation process before we vote on something so important. Automated decision-making will be useful to speed up claims processes. However, the DVA computer system and software has yet to be designed and built. That's the other issue. There is a lot of concern regarding initial decisions related to a service injury or disease or reassessment of such. There is no computer program, absolutely no computer program. Now, if anyone can show me or present different evidence, please do so, that I am aware of that is able to take into account High Court and Federal Court precedent in the decision of a claim for liability of an injury or disease. We just don't have the algorithms to do that. Noting the recent serious concerns from the Centrelink debt recovery data matching system and the errors that have been reported about the system, it would be wise to only allow the legislation to make decisions on matters that don't involve initial decisions on liability of injuries or disease. To protect vulnerable veterans, I will be introducing an amendment to this bill which would limit decisions to those which do not involve claims for liability on an injury or disease which is service-connected. This amendment will include reassessments of such claims. I don't see an issue with the computer program being able to make decisions on travel claims reimbursement or expense-related claims and claims of similar nature. Now, for those that don't know, this is actually already being done. I can actually submit a claim through the computer, through DVA. The only thing that's holding them up is it's got to be signed off by a delegate. So really, I don't know why this has taken so long. I don't understand why it needs to be signed off by a delegate if you're already entering it in the computer system yourself. Until DVA has a track record in the building and development of the ICT, this Senate should not risk subjecting any veterans who defend our great country to a system where the computer says no to a legitimate compensation claim involving the initial liability determination or reassessment of injuries or diseases related to their defence service. This parliament owes our veterans a duty of care in ensuring there are little to no errors in allowing DVA to make computer program decisions, especially with respect to first getting a veteran's foot into the door of the Department of Veterans Affairs. After the Department of Veterans Affairs has built and designed the computer system and the software and has developed a track record of success with decisions such as travel expenses, then it may come back to Parliament to seek an amendment to broaden its computer program decision-making abilities. Given the high number of veteran suicide, like I've just mentioned, and the present Senate inquiry into the most serious issues, we should not risk giving DVA free rein to make any and all decisions by computer program. If this Senate passes this bill as is, that is exactly what it will be doing, giving complete freedom to the executive branch of government through Minister of Veterans Affairs and the DVA to make any and all decisions by a computer program before it is even designed, built and tested, with very little input and oversight by the legislative branch of government. In a few years' time, we do not want to find ourselves holding another Senate inquiry into veteran suicides due to computers saying no on an initial liability on an injury or disease, which effectively seals off the door to DVA absent of it on an appeal. Whereas lawmakers need to get this right, as there is far too much at risk to give the executive branch free rein to allow a computer program to make decisions, given the program hasn't even been designed and implemented or even tested as yet. I think we're jumping the gun. You may want to start with the design. I know this is based on money. This is how I understand it. It's based on money, and you want it to go through the budget. That I think it's about 30 million. It's the same 30 million that the past Honourable Senator Ronaldson spoke to me about, and I'm assuming it's in that same area. But you really shouldn't until you get the computer program out there, and we can all see it's working. While we need to do this backwards, in my own words, because it is backwards. You're doing it the wrong way, roundabout face. I hope my Senate colleagues will support my amendments to this bill, which will help to protect veterans' privacy and prevent computer systems in error to getting into the DVA. Before I sit down, I have some really serious concerns about giving so much more power to the Secretary of DVA. I don't know if people know out there's been recent cases where DVA delegates at level 4, and I mean they're not little delegates, they're advocates at level 4, they're about as high as they can go, have been told, they're out there putting their messages across social media, they're out there voicing their opinion, they're allowed to, it's a democracy, it's a free country. Well, Simon Lewis doesn't like that. Simon Lewis doesn't like it when you're actually the truth at his face. So these level 4 advocates are now paying the price. One of them has 45 cases sitting on his desk, and he's been told in no uncertain terms he has to follow the rules already that are set by Simon Lewis. Those rules, one of those rules is he's allowed 1 email per week. Now, how does he do that when he has 40 or 45 files, and I think there's about a dozen of them that are going through an AAT? How does a secretary get that much power that he can shut down a level 4 advocate, put nothing into place? He's put nothing into place to take over the veterans that this level 4 advocate has on his books. He's done nothing. He's left veterans out there sitting on the sidelines wondering who the hell they go to next. I mean, this is the power already shown by Simon Lewis. Jeez, and you want to give him more? Come on. He is already dictating to level 4 advocates how they are going to react with DVA, because goodness forbid we put things on social media which are pretty much true, and I will say they're true, and I have no problem putting it up there either when it comes to Simon Lewis and his lack of actions or his inability to do his job. And he doesn't like it. Well, I say this to you, Lewis, here's a box of Kleenex, suck it up. If you start doing the job properly, we wouldn't be slandering you all over social media with the facts coming back to bite you. That's how it operates. So as for your checks and balances and all this sort of stuff, no, there is no checks and balances in DVA. Hence, that's why you've already had this many suicides this year. There is no checks and balances. As a matter of fact, while we've been screaming for 2 years to have a Royal Commission into Veterans Affairs, you know what? I think that after the 500 or 600 submissions that have come through on the most recent inquiry and the one that was held on mental health last year in February, March, I think we have no other choice but to do the right things as politicians and at least call for a forensic audit, an independent forensic audit into the management and administration of Veterans Affairs. We don't have a choice. There is something really, really wrong going on in that department. And it stinks to high heaven, and it is taking out veterans. So before you vote for this bill, especially Labor, have a good think about what you're doing. And I would hope that people are going to support my amendments.
Thank you, Senator Lambie. Senator Patterson.
Thank you, Mr